Hello, Savannah, and welcome to another edition of Kandily Keisha. I'm so excited to present to you tonight candidate for House District 165, Mr. Clinton Coward. Mr. Clinton Coward is a Libertarian running for office here in Savannah, Georgia, and we are so excited to introduce him to our citizens tonight. And he is joined by his executive assistant, or his partner in crime. Partner in HR work, Ms. Ronique. Thank you so much for joining us as well. We are so happy to have you both. Look, Clinton, tell us, actor, community advocate, and you also are an HR executive. You graduated public school here in Savannah, graduate of Armstrong State University. What brings you to public service? Sir, you are now a candidate for elected office.
Well, at some point in your life, you have to stop standing on the sidelines and you need to get personally involved. It's one thing to complain, it's another thing to do something about it and come up with solutions.
Well, listen, we are glad you are taking the leap into this pool, this very diverse pool. We had some of our other candidates on earlier in the month, and we wanted to be inclusive of all of the candidates. So we are glad that you accepted our invitation. We're going to jump right into some of the issues that we face here in our city as it relates to your job. And first, as we approach city council, we became very familiar with our charter real fast because a major issue arose in that we were now, as sitting officials, being challenged in terms of how we could place an item on the agenda. And so not only does it now require us to have 5 votes, it requires us to, due to some maneuvering of our mayor, the rules of council that were voted on by the majority on our council now calls for us to have 5 members of council actually give consensus for us to have an item introduced before it could actually be voted on. And so with that, we recognize that that was strategy to sort of backdoor the power structure's way into a strong mayor form of government. As you know, we have what's called or considered a weak mayor form of government. That means it's our local administration is led by our council and our city manager. The city manager is the chief executive officer of the city of Savannah, and we're so happy to be supported by a new city manager, Mr. Jay Melder. Where are you, Mr. Coward, when it comes to supporting our charter as it is written? And would you support changing Savannah's charter to a strong mayor form of government?
I think having a consensus of 5 people is ridiculous. It's kind of undermining the entire structure. I don't think it should require that many members for a consensus. I mean, that's just my viewpoint.
Okay, thank you so much. And now we know that we have also been challenged with not only protecting the coffers of the city of Savannah, that is making sure that the resources are appropriately allocated and making sure that our citizens are receiving the level of support as it relates to the amount of tax dollars they're paying, making sure that they're receiving city services. We are now challenged with collaborating and networking with some of our longtime business partners in the form of our chamber, the ports of Savannah, as well as our educational institution who claim nonprofit status and do not pay taxes, property taxes, that is. We've talked a lot about one in particular, and that's the ports of Savannah, sort of ponying up. You know, there was a time when Savannah assessed a container fee per container to offset some of the costs associated with maintaining our infrastructure, the environmental pollution, so forth and so on. Where are you, and what are your thoughts when it comes to the assessment of a port tax?
I think we need to try a different avenue. we're not charging enough fees for the containers. And as far as I looked into it, we're only charging like $4 a day in container fees. We need to increase that. And the docking is about $900 for a 24-hour period for docking. This is $1 billion industry. We should raise that. I mean, $900 is way too low. I think the reason that you're thinking about taxes is number one, you're not charging enough to the port. I think these fees, such as docking and container fees, need to be increased. We deserve to have the right to that revenue. Savannah, this county, District 165, we shouldn't be charging such low rates when they're generating millions of dollars.
And so, what we want to do is create and foster a partnership or some form of an agreement whereby we are attacking our most pressing community issues from a lens where we all matter. And sometimes when we present ideas or policy initiatives or suggestions or even recommendations, it's often met with resistance because it has not been a part of our culture for the winners to give a little more over the last 3 to 4 decades. And so I am not as married to taxing these entities as I am saying, come to the table. Let's recognize where we are in our community. Look at all you have taken and appreciated and taken advantage of, and look at what the needs of Savannah are. You make the recommendations in terms of what it is you feel like you are willing to give. We make recommendations in terms of what we have by way of an expectation, and let's come to some mutual agreement. But for whatever reason, Clinton, there seems to be strong resistance to even enter into dialogue. The most we are met with are offerings of a few computers for a community center or handing out some Happy Meals or some brown bags to a community. And we know that that's peanuts in the grand scheme of what these giants could actually offer or what they should actually pay up. And we're not asking them for a hand out. We're not even asking for a hand up. We are essentially asking for a fair share in terms of what Savannahans as a whole deserve in this community.
I think we should be more aggressive. We're approaching them in a submissive manner. Now, I could be incorrect about this. It's not about fair share. They're getting cheap rates, way below the standard. And the fact that they're antagonistic towards us at the negotiation table, when they, well, in a lot of ways, they're being a free ride, I don't think they have the right to approach with that type of attitude. And I don't think we're being unreasonable to want to elevate docking fees or container fees or any of the other rates. And when you mention fair share, of course we deserve fair share. Right now, we're receiving crumbs. They're getting away with robbery, technically. And for them to look, well, to look at us in any type of way that's negative, I think it shows an unlimited amount of arrogance on their part. I don't think they realize how much they need us. It's not just that we need them. They need us as well. And I think they've forgotten us.
And that's the point that I try to get over and I try to make whenever we are having these conversations, because Savannah is the place to do business. We generate the most money for Georgia, only second to Atlanta. We boast of having one of the largest ports in the nation. We are, in fact, the tourist capital of the Southeast with the greatest hospitality. After all, we are welcoming the Rock and Roll Marathon, 20,000 plus runners and guests in the midst of a pandemic. This is the place to be, right? Yeah. So, you know, with that said, we just wanted to know where you are when at the Capitol working on behalf of Savannah. And that brings me to my next question. our very first year on council, we had a huge issue with this whole notion of a lobbyist. Do we need a lobbyist? Do we not need a lobbyist? Was the lobbyist worth their weight? I think the price tag was between $25,000 and $60,000 from the first to the second year. And so some of the senators, as well as the state representatives, have acknowledged that they've never had a real good relationship with city council to actually be able to advocate on our behalf at the Capitol. What position are you in, and what approach will you take to connect with members of our council to make sure we are being adequately represented at the Capitol?
I think I need to develop relationships with lobbyists. I also think I need to help in the negotiations if you decide to ever go with another lobbyist and put countermeasures in the contracts that causes the lobbyists that may or may not be hired to be evaluated on a certain time frame. And if they fail to meet the criteria within the contract, whoever you're not obligated to pay them the remainder of the fee. I mean, right now, from what you told me, you're out of a lot of money, almost $60,000, because the lobbyists did not meet the mission statement that they implied in the contract that you negotiated. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. You're spot on. So listen, Clinton, this takes me to my next question. You know, we have been receiving lots of information related to the ARPA funds, the American Relief Protection Act. The city of Savannah, we are slated to receive between 55 and 57 million. Chatham County, 95 million. The Board of Education, I think it's probably about 90 million. Chatham County, 50 plus $1 million. We have all of this money floating around between these entities, these governmental entities in our city. What position you will take to assure that there is some cohesiveness in communication from Board of Education to Chatham County to City of Savannah, as well as the state of Georgia. The governor has some millions in his arsenal, and we are hoping that he earmarks some of that for Georgia, for Savannah, Georgia as well. What approach will you take to assuring that these resources are adequately being uh, divided among those who really need it in our community?
First, there has to be transparency among the public. It needs to be public record on all decisions that are made on the distribution of any revenue. That way, any citizen can have a public record, whether it's in person or online, and they can see how we are dividing any money received. I think the big problem right now is whenever money is received, whether it's for taxation or from the methods that you mentioned, the public doesn't have access until after the fact sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's too late to stop how the money is being spent. Because if the public knew how money is being divided and they see it was being mismanaged, they can have a voice in stopping the procedure and letting us know what is being done wrong in case any of us have no knowledge. A lot of the problem is the public doesn't know. That's why I'm not saying transparency. I'm saying the public doesn't know. We need to make everything public record when dealing with the distribution of any revenue.
And you know, along the lines of making things public, I think the best line of assurance, the best step, I should say, toward assuring that funds are being appropriately allocated is including citizens early in the process.
Exactly.
Have their voice heard, have them at a real table where they will have a say in how they think these resources should be spent.
That's exactly correct because it's their money, not ours.
Right. And so we were selfish and jumping right in there and starting out the questions with my interest because it affects my work.
Right.
But finally, before I get into your platform and and have you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what your plans are. Um, we have coming up a huge decision that's going to involve our state reps and the senators regarding the hotel motel tax. And you had something interesting to say about the hotel motel tax, and I want you to share that with us tonight.
Well, as you already know, I was a HR director in the hospitality industry for Mr. Neat's company. And I dealt in the resort and the hotel and motel industry. We pretty much recruited temps to fulfill, all the requirements in that area. So tourism was something I dealt with all the time. After the lockdown, given the fact that we're just emerging from our caves, metaphorically, I think instilling a tax on the tourists coming here would actually would have a backlash, and it's too early. I also think implementing a tax on the hotels and motels so soon when we're getting away from the lockdown will have a backlash as well. It would cause a massive increase in unemployment. I would like to hold off on any decisions on increasing the taxes on the hotel motel industry and tourism. I want people in District 165 and in Savannah an opportunity to get back on their feet and to start generating revenue again. And that's going to take a while. I mean, we were pretty much locked down for a year and we haven't fully recovered. I mean, you still see businesses having trouble getting employees. You still see employees, unable to return to work, or when they return, they're not able to generate enough hours. And as far as tourism goes, the only tourists that have really been flocking to Savannah after the lockdown have been young people because they were cooped up. And young people don't have as much revenue to spend as retirees. And I don't want to make them or encourage them to leave Savannah for another vacation spot and lose that revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to hold off on this.
Well, some of the things you mentioned are consistent with why I did not support the increase of the millage rate, which ultimately raised the taxes of our citizens whose property values were going to increase. And so I was among two of my other colleagues who did not vote for that. And in talking about taxes, you have been very vocal about supporting local businesses by way of clearing the red tape at the state level on regulations and also lowering taxes.
Yeah, a lot of businesses are now hindered with having to buy countless supplies for medical reasons for COVID-19. And a lot of this boils down to personal responsibility. We shouldn't be burdening, can't speak correctly, all these enterprises with having to look after the personal health of their staff and themselves. This is personal responsibility. I'm all for advertising people to wear a mask, get a vaccine, but to force the business to do it for the individual, I think that just impedes an enormous expense on small businesses. They're already struggling and they're having a hard time getting back into the room.
Okay. And so, Clinton, you have on your platform in terms of what you stand on are things consistent with individual rights against mandates.
Correct.
Okay, and so we know that there's some controversy standing now in Texas regarding women's rights, and there's some talk that it's potential for it to head to Georgia. Well, where will you stand on women's rights?
It's simple. The same as I stand on the mandates. No one has the right to tell you what to do with your personal life or health, except you and your physician. I don't think the federal government I just don't think the government should be involved in decisions that involve a citizen's health.
Mm-hmm.
That's between them and their physician and no one else. And one of the things I don't like is this is also impeding, it touches on violations of the HIPAA Act. Number one, an employer is not supposed to know your medical history on whether you get vaccines or whether you had cancer or any other procedures. That's between you and your physician or whatever hospital or clinic you attend. So, no, the government should stay out of the decisions of the citizens when it comes to their health.
And I'm glad you raised that point because it's it's interesting to me how relaxed we have become as a society when it comes to our personal health care. It seems that people are just so expressive, even in doctor's office. There's very little privacy when you're in the waiting room. I can think of a dozen different ways they can do things differently, everywhere from giving you a number instead of calling your name out in front of the lobby as people almost know what your illness and your diagnosis is before you get your weight checked.
Yeah, well,
Um,
here's the problem with this. Here's what people don't consider. You can not attain an interview for employment just because an employer violated the HIPAA Act, looked into your medical history, let's say found out your grandparents had cancer. They purposely don't hire you out of the fear that you might develop cancer later on, and they
right.
have to cover it. This was the whole reason the HIPAA Act was created, to
Mm,
protect your rights so you can still get a job, or if you need Social Security, unemployment, welfare, supplemental security income, you wouldn't be turned down due to the past medical history of your parents, grandparents, or ancestors. And that's the fear that I have. Once you begin violating the HIPAA Act and people begin expressing their medical history publicly, it can backfire on them without them realizing it.
well, and this is consistent with what you said on your platform, in that you believe that the healthcare system is broken and government intervention is really not working right now.
No, I mean, if you look at Medicaid, you have asset limits. You're familiar with those, right?
Mhm.
A person have an asset limit of $2,000. I think it should be 10,000. I'm sorry, but how can you place value on human life? And then you have people, if they get married, they have to worry about being cut off from Medicaid. So if you fall in love, you're punished. And when you need Medicaid, so you're going to lose it because you fell in love and you wanted to grow old with someone. We need to fix things like this before we expand them. And we haven't addressed these issues. We keep on ignoring them year after year. And this is not just a problem for the elderly, it's a problem for the disabled as well.
Okay. And finally, one of your planks on your platform is you believe in the legalization of marijuana. Let's talk about that.
All right. I think the only way you're going to reduce violent crime is if you legalize not just medicinal marijuana usage, but recreational marijuana usage. You have a lot of non-violent offenders rotting away, incarcerated, and their only crime was they used marijuana. I just don't think half measures 5% medicinal is going to cut it. Think back to prohibition. When we made alcohol illegal, all it did was help organize crime, increase the underground markets, and violent crime went through the roof. Once we pretty much went back on prohibition, made alcohol legal again,
Hmm.
it didn't eliminate violent crime, but it certainly reduced it, and it really put a hit in organized crime. If we do the same thing with marijuana, we legalize it recreational and medicinal, violent crime will go down and organized crime will take a hit. And a lot less money will be spent, well, having to go to funerals of innocent bystanders who were caught in the crossfire of drug deal gone bad. We need to just look at this completely different, and we need to legalize marijuana across the board.
And tell me, Clinton, how realistic do you think it is that that'll happen in Georgia? And if so, how close are we?
We're a lot closer than we used to be, but it's going to take all of us as a community fighting together to change the outlook. People have allowed their religious beliefs and their sense of ethics and morality to get in the way of the stats and the reasoning. Just because something is legal doesn't mean you have to use it. I'm not advocating for people to drink alcohol or use marijuana. You just, I want it legal to reduce the crime. You do not have to have any part of it. But people always assume that when you want to legalize something, you're forcing people to use it. And, well, alcohol's legal. You're not forced to drink, are you?
That's a different way to look at it. Now, tell me this, Clinton. The election is coming up for House seat 165. Early voting has actually already started, correct?
That's correct.
And when is election day?
Election day is November the 2nd, and the early election voting will continue until October the 29th. You can go to the Board of Elections, which is off of Eisenhower behind the tight office.
Mhm.
And if you want to know about the other locations, you can go on the Board of Elections website to find the other locations that they're having early voting.
Okay. And tell me, you know that the election laws from our state level to the national level is like a moving target. How concerned are you about voter suppression? And is there anything you want to mention about current election laws and how it's changing and the maneuvering that's taking place there?
I think a lot of the problem is there are services that are available to assist people and give them accommodations in money that they don't know about, or worse, it's just not made readily available. You can find it, but you have to look for it, like you're a private investigator. Like, number one, if you lack a photo ID and you don't have an automobile and you don't have a means of going to, more of elections to get a photo ID or a tag office, you can call their office and they will have someone go to your residence and take a photo and create you a photo ID in your own residence. But we don't advertise this service. I don't know why. I mean, it's on the website, but I think we should do a whole lot more to make people aware of what they have, the services that are available to them. And we're not doing that. And that's a form of suppression. If you think about it, when you don't tell people about what's available to them, you can't use the excuse, well, ignorance is not, a defense. No, that's an excuse used in a court of law, not when you're making people aware of public services. They need to be more aware. I mean, if you don't know, how you going to know to ask?
Right. Now, tell me this, Clinton. You're in a crowded field. So you should be very concerned with those pieces related to the election laws and voter suppression. How are you feeling about this race? It's pretty tight. We have a lot of people.
It is pretty tight. I think what concerns me is how easily I'm never mentioned.
Mhm.
How easily my picture never appears when they're talking about the candidate.
Mm.
I don't think this was an accident, but it might be. But I think it does the people an injustice when they're not informed of all the candidates, not just in written form, but in visual as well. I do exist, and it would be nice to see my picture with the other candidates. And it would be even nicer to have me mentioned more than once or twice when they're writing an article. But I have no control over the press. It's freedom of the press. I guess they have to be encouraged to follow up on all the facts without having to be reminded.
Well, welcome to my world, Clinton. Welcome
Yeah,
to my world. And
but I did want to mention something that's a main platform of mine. I wanted to mention school choice.
yes, I left that one out. Hmm.
It's important to me and it's personal. If you read my bio or if you know my history, um, I think it's time we hold the public school system, especially in District 165, to the fire. They need improvement. We keep pouring more tax dollars on top of more tax dollars, and there's no real change. There's no real innovation. Their idea of improving conditions is building a new school, throwing some new computers at the problem, and hiring a bunch of teachers. yet they still use the same techniques, they still use the same strategies to convey information and data to the students. They are still reprinting some of the textbooks, and worse of all, they're now ignoring the parents. And when parents were involved and active, they actually used to listen. But when I visited a Board of Education meeting recently, I was appalled at how easily the parents were ignored. I mean, there weren't mean or anything, but it's just like the entire time the parents were speaking, no one was paying attention. Not really. I think we need school choice. This would be a voucher that will allow a guardian or a parent to send their child to a public or private institution of their choice or homeschool them. And the voucher would pay for tuition, transportation, or tools if they choose homeschooling. This competition would force the public school to improve or even, suffer the consequences. I think competition will benefit only one party, and that's the students. And they are the priority. The students should have always been the priority, period.
Thank you for mentioning that. I failed to mention school choice here on your platform, but that also reminds me about the deficiencies where the state is concerned when it comes to equitable allocation of support for HBCUs. The formula that and that's historically Black colleges and universities, the formula that's used per student at predominantly white institutions is not equally applied for students per head at historically Black colleges and universities. Where are you when it comes to advocating for equity with regard to that allocation?
Number one, if we allow the public to know how these funds are being distributed and may see the lack of fairness and the lack of equal opportunity, there will be an uproar. And number one, the mismanagement of these programs, especially the Hope Scholarship, it appalls me that the majority of the Hope Scholarship doesn't go towards students, it goes towards advertising. Mm-hmm. And Lord knows whatever slush funds they've created. I think once we see, which we've already seen a little bit, of the inequalities, we can put a stop to it. And we can make sure that the money is distributed fairly. And it's not being distributed in a fair and equitable manner at the moment. That needs to stop.
And thank you for mentioning the Hope Scholarship, because we know that the lottery was heavily pitched to citizens across Georgia under the guise of increasing academic opportunity for those seeking to matriculate at our state colleges and universities, when in fact we see that those allocations over time have decreased year after year after year. And now we have the new introduction of potential casinos slated for our city, the corridors of 95, or even over at the Hutchinson Island where the Trade Center is, where they're working double time on the governor's expansion there. Where are you with the idea of casinos in Savannah?
I think if people want the casino, that's fine, but we need to make sure most of the revenue goes toward the Hope Scholarship, not advertising the Hope Scholarship, not some program we don't know about that has nothing to do with the Hope Scholarship, or some administrator or some fund that the public doesn't know about. This revenue stream is scattered, and it's not going towards the students. And as you stated earlier, it's going towards some schools and not others, all because of color, disability, or any other minority status. No, you divide the money evenly amongst all the schools for the students, only for the students. And we need to lower the percentage that goes to advertising, and we need to make sure the revenue doesn't go outside of those arenas. The problem is we don't know where most of the money is going. That's the problem.
Right. And you are making some great cases here tonight. I love hearing your platform and hearing what it is that you have to say. I think the other candidates are going to ask to come back on my show and have equal time because I had all of them on at one time and we were doing like a round robin. But this is really giving me some uh, time to spend with you and to hear more about what you have to say. And I apologize to you for the fact that our media affiliates have not given you equitable FaceTime.
Well, another thing I almost forgot to mention, I don't know how it slipped my mind. There's an idea that's going amongst the other candidates, and I do agree with them on this. I want community policing, just like some of the other candidates I mentioned. I think it's a great idea, and it's worked in other areas. Right now, our police officers, they're not able to build a connection with each neighborhood they patrol, and a lot of times they're sent to other neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Community policing will give the ability for relationships to develop, and that way the police officers, they know you. It's a personal connection, and you can help each other to make the neighborhood safer for everyone.
And a lot of people don't realize that one of the ultimate goals of community policing is prevention of crime, as well as establishing relationships so that you can get intel on crime that may actually be happening.
Well, it's not just intel. People need to understand that the police are not their enemy. What's
Right.
the enemy is the structure, like guaranteed immunity. No public official should have guaranteed immunity. That gives them the ability to violate a citizen's rights and get away with it without any civil or criminal, liability. That's wrong.
Did you read my lawsuit?
Yeah. But the fact is, any public official that violates the rights of a citizen should be held accountable. There should be no guaranteed immunity. And that's not the fault of the police officers or any public official. That's the structure. We need to get rid of guaranteed immunity. We need to abolish it. Period.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Is there anything else you want to share in terms of your platform or anything else you want the citizens to know about you and the race? I did want to ask if there are going to be any debates scheduled between you and the other candidates.
Not at the moment, but I am open to debate any candidate on the issues that we talked about. And I'm also open to their ideas. Like I said, I like some of the candidates' ideas on community policing. I don't care about any credit. It's a good idea is a good idea. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm on board if I hear a good idea. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate hearing that. Um, I see Ronique is still with us.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to say? Introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do.
This is my campaign manager, Ronique Armity, and she might want to forward you a list of some of the events that we're planning. We're thinking about a trip with a treat or truck out here, not treat.
Trick or trunk.
Thank you.
I like trick or trunk better than trick or treating. It saves your legs.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. But anyway, I'm not gonna waste my time on you. I'm here because a lot of the views that Mr. Coward had is a lot of the things that my grandfather stood for. As you know, my grandfather is the first African American district attorney of Louisiana, Earl Amity Sr. And my dad, just some of the things that he did and some of the things Mr. Coward stands for, and also the support that he has given to um, one of, I would say, she's probably gonna get me for this one, but my daughter was incarcerated and he advocated for her. It was numerous things that Mr. Coward has done for the community, and I'm just here to support and guide him in the right way and to make sure that he does the right thing for us. Not just speak it, but also do it. You know how Black women are. We make them do it.
And I wanted to end things with this. I understand about COVID. I understand the fear that makes people desire mandates. When you're afraid to do a lot of things that don't make sense. I was born terminally ill. I understand that fear. I was fortunate enough to survive past my expiration date. And I can tell you at some point you need to realize what matters most, longevity or quality. What is it if you live 100 years and you never leave your house and you never interact with another human being? Your quality of life, it diminishes. And I think we've allowed the COVID scare to make us so paranoid that we have to have a law to enforce what's in our best interest. And that's not true. You know, at the time that I spent at the Shriners Hospital and the patient, I watched a lot of death. And when I got out, I learned to live each day and enjoy it rather than thinking about death. And I think people are smart enough to do what's in their best interest health wise. And at the same time, have personal accountability. We don't give people enough credit. I mean, before COVID 19, people had the flu shot. Some people got the flu shot, some people didn't. Some people who didn't get the flu shot got sick, even passed away. But we knew you're an adult. You were given the opportunity, and you're responsible for your own fate. But by forcing it upon people, we forget the disabled. There are people that can't take the vaccine. They're allergic. They have a reaction. There are people that can't wear a mask. They have asthma. OCD, well, can't say it. Sorry. But breathing problems. We're not taking everything into account. One size does not fit all. And we've forgotten this. And that holds true towards education as well. We need to start teaching disabled children in different ways. We can't use the same strategies that we've been using since the time I was in special ed class. We need to look at everything differently, and we're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope this fear will lift and people will value the liberty and freedom that they have in this country and take personal responsibility. If you're disabled, if you have cancer, or if you're over 40, take the advice from your doctor. If your doctor tells you to get vaccinated, listen to your doctor. If you're not within that demographic and you're healthy, you're normal, then whether you get vaccinated or not is your choice. That's it.
Thank you for that. And the point you made where you said all size does not fit all, I acknowledged early on in the show that you are running as a libertarian, not as a Democrat, not as a Republican, but a libertarian. Tell us, what does that mean, Clinton?
Well, it means that socially in some aspects, I'm a lot like a Democrat. And it means that economically in some aspects, I'm a lot like a Republican. But because I'm a libertarian, I have ideas that neither party has sometimes. So that kind of leaves me in limbo because some of my ideas don't match with either side.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I can certainly appreciate some of that coming into public life, public office, not really strongly aligning myself with any one party, but certainly standing firm on the things that I believed in. And I think my arrival has provided a way for people who ordinarily would not care less about politics to actually pay attention. Because from where I'm sitting, Clinton, um, water, sewage, recycling, garbage collection, infrastructure, crime, poverty, blight, uh, you know, our environment. These are issues that are not Democrat, Republican, male, female, black, white.
Now,
These are real issues related to how people want to live in harmony, pretty much. And
we all want shelter, we all want food, and we all want a better life.
mhm.
We all live and we all die, we all bleed. And we forget that. We've become so tribalistic in our behavior within the last decade or more that we're at each other's throats rather than trying to solve the problems and work together. I think we need to look at each other as simply Americans. And we need to stop with the identity politics because we all want the same things, a better life. I want to reduce the homeless rate. I want to prevent unemployment from rising. I want to increase employment retention. So my goals, although I might have a different avenue, are the same as pretty much everyone else. I want people to have a better life. I want people to have fair and equal opportunity. And I'm wanting to do anything I have to make that a reality.
Well, thank you so much. And I want you to close with telling me something special about District 165. What would you like for everybody to know about District 165? And also, don't forget to tell people how to support your campaign, where they can donate. I gave everybody an opportunity to do that as well.
What I like about 165 is how friendly people are. I mean, even the people I meet that don't agree with me, they at least listen. The people are just easy to get along with. And a lot of my neighbors have helped me when no one else would. And the sense of community that I've noticed is really strong in this district. And I like the fact that we all can look to each other in the support system. And if you want to know about my candidacy, you can go to howardforgeorgia.com. That's COWARTFORGA.com. And that pretty much delivers my entire platform. You can volunteer if you don't have the money to contribute, because I'm always looking for volunteers. And I want to hear what you think. I want to know what you think, because I want all viewpoints before I consider any resolution, because you never know where a good idea will emerge.
Thank you for that. Listen, I want to also invite you all to take a look in the chat and answer any questions that may be popping up there, and reiterate by putting your information to your campaign and your webpage and how people can support you in the chat as well. I want to thank you for stopping by. And if time permits or opportunity presents itself, we look forward to connecting with you again before Election Day.
I hope so. I look forward as well.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye, Ronnie.
Bye-bye. Let's see you again.
Take care. Listen, Savannah, we have another guest that's coming to share with us tonight. Miss Lisa Fletcher Runstrom of Hello Savannah. She has created a very, 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 very ambitious campaign to unite Savannah district by district 1 through 6. And she is not leaving any stone unturned. Every Saturday and Sunday in the month of October, Hello Savannah will be in somebody's neighborhood, somebody's park, on somebody's corner somewhere. Lisa.
Hi,
Tell
Keisha.
us about this high fever that you got one night and came up with this idea.
Right. Thank you, Keisha. Thank you so much. And, thanks for hosting this amazing program. Yes, so this idea came about during our last presidential election cycle. And, political tensions were very high. I had been working on interactive public art. I'm an artist. I create public work. I also work with social causes, right? And doing different types of work, different projects, bringing art together with creating change in the communities. And I had moved to Savannah in 2017, came here, finished up this public artwork, and was getting ready to start a new work. And instead, I thought my time might be better spent creating a project that could help bring people together, because things were not good, and I'm not saying we're so much better today, but I feel a little bit of relief. And so I was just thinking, what can I do to not contribute to the tension, to not contribute to the problem, to practice some of the things that I've been learning and trying to apply to my own life, and to share them with other people. And so Hello Neighbor I started thinking about creating an event, and originally it was going to be a one-time event. And so I thought, this could be something where it would not have a political agenda, but, people who are running on political platforms, are very welcome to come. Anyone is welcome to come be a part of it. But it's really about trying to restore neighborhoods and restore communities and kind of stop some of the polarization and dualism that's happening and really combat that through something positive rather than negative. Right. So,
well, I think it's a genius idea. I think it's a genius idea, and it's so beautiful. Each event I've been to so far, seeing people from all walks of life, people who have various interests. I especially enjoyed the event on Sunday because we got to dance.
We got to dance. That's right. We had the big stage on Sunday, so that was really nice. And the temperature dropped about 10 more degrees cooler and beautiful sunshine. And but yeah, when we talk about all walks of life, I think that is a big part of this too. Creating outdoor events is that when we're creating those events, sometimes we're inhabiting other people's living spaces. Sometimes we're in public space and in this public sphere, and so it really changes this dynamic where I don't want to just go and take over someone's space. I want to see if they want to be a part of it and how we can work together to create something unique in every situation. And so the first one was in West Savannah. And, I had, friends in West Savannah that I just kind of called. We're going to, I'm going to try to do one of these in every district. And so that's what I've been doing in every district is if I know someone in that district, I email or call or Facebook or, whatever, and try to, get them involved, come be a public speaker, come sing, come do something, to, maybe volunteer or contribute in some way. And so we're doing some community building and it becomes our project together, and so that's been a really great experience for me. And I was so happy to see you. And I mean, your schedule is stacked and you were there both days. And that was just really meaningful to me too, to see people coming out who are, it was Savannah State homecoming, right? So I can't compete with that, right? But yeah, people come out and they do it. And then Sunday, JD Music Group Live played. So we had this amazing band playing to kind of cap off the day. So anyway, the really short events and just giving us enough time to meet neighborhood association leaders, meet, nonprofits are invited, they have booths. And so I really tried to network through the neighborhood associations this time around. The first event was just kind of invite everyone. And then once I decided to create the nonprofit and to start developing it, it was kind of strategized around the neighborhood. Like how do you connect with neighborhoods? Well,
and we also want to make mention of the economic component you offer, in that vendors will come out and sell their goods as well. And it's not too late for them to sign up, right?
No, that's right. That's right. So the website is helloneighborsav.com. And how it works is there were 6 events. So we have completed 2. So we have 4 more to go. Our next one is this Saturday coming up at Edgemere Saxville Park, which is right off of Truman and DeLesseps. So that's 58th and Cedar is right there on the corner. And that's a newer park. And so that's where we're going to be on Saturday. And then Sunday we'll be in Daffin Park, across from the swimming pool entrance in the tree grove area, not out in the big field, but in the, tree drive around area. And so we're just doing some smaller events. So part of that all had started out being because of COVID, right? I wanted to try to reduce the numbers of people so we weren't having the real large event. But so we ended up taking them to the neighborhoods, and now that was such a great idea, because instead of people having to come to us, we're going to them, so we're coming to the neighborhoods. And, if you can't drive, or you can't, or you want, you don't want to, you just want to come out, people can just ride their bike or come out and walk and have a little celebration. And the vendors are sponsors for the event, so they pay a vendor fee. They can pay a $25 vendor fee or a $35 to do all of them, right? So I'm trying to get people to do as many as they can and encourage that. And and it helps pay for the permits and the electricity, or whatever we need to pay for, sound engineer, whatever. So and then we're raising money with t-shirts and other stuff too. But really trying to bring interactive art as a means, and then other art forms like music, and whether it's community speakers or poets or storytellers, bringing this artistic component into it.
And there's actually a traveling art exhibit, right, where people in the community can kind of participate in finishing.
Right, they're coming around. And so we have a featured artist. Keisha Jones is our featured artist, and she created an artwork called Hello Neighbor, a painting called Hello Neighbor, without knowing us. And so we connected, and I said, please work with us on this project. And she has. And so she is recreating a mural. She has a mural that was the Hello Neighbor work was actually stolen of her. Yes. Yeah. And so we are recreating the work, but using the community as a way to engage with the community. So she's kind of painted the background and some of the key figures, and then she's letting the community finish the artwork with her. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be a little different than the first Hello Neighbor. It'll be a new version, but so there's that. And then I'm working on a new artwork that I'm launching. I haven't had a lot of time to work on it because I've been pretty busy with the event, but it is called The Monument of the Now. And it is completely about the community, and really all I'm asking people to do to participate in it and is to, when they take pictures on their phones, if it's something that ties into their neighborhood, if it's something that they value in their neighborhood, and really starting to think about what we value. And it can be a person, a place, a thing, something that is significant to us, right? Then to just hashtag it, Monument of the Now. And that can be on any social media platform. And then I'm going to go back, and then in the description, just put the neighborhood that you captured it in. And so if it's, Dauphin Heights or West Savannah or, Hudson Hill or Tatumville, or, you just put it in there. And so this spring, I'm going to start, taking all of those hashtags and putting them into an artwork, and start collaborating with the public to create an artwork using those images. So.
Well, it all sounds so very interesting and fascinating. We are excited to be a part of it. And I also want to make mention that this isn't the first campaign. You've had several Hello Neighbor events throughout the city, but yes, you also are a huge advocate of helping to preserve the weeping time.
That is correct. That is
correct. We want to thank you for your early work and your early advocacy, and using your nonprofit organization to help in that regard, as well as we continue to advocate. And I would be remiss if I didn't pause and just send well wishes and prayers to our intrepid community activist, the Reverend Good Dr. Leonard Small.
Yes, yes, yes. Prayers with him, and be well, Reverend.
Yes, yes. And so let's close out. You should know this off the top of your head. Just in case you don't, you take a minute and give us information related to the next events, when, where, and the location. And our Too Legit to Lit team is still mobilizing.
That's right.
We'll be in full swing on Saturday to pick up and clean up when everything's over.
Okay, great. Yeah, and so as mentioned, the next event is Saturday the 23rd at Edgemere Saxville Park. It is from 12 to 3. And so all the events are going to be from 12 to 3. So it's really simple as far as it's just replicating the same space every Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday is Edgemere Saxville, which is District 3. And then we move to District 4, which is Daffin, right? So Daffin Park will be Sunday from 12 to 3, the 24th. And then the next weekend, when we come back, it'll be October 30th and October 31st. And so on the 30th, we'll be in Tatumville from 12 to 3. And then on the 31st, we'll be in Windsor Forest, Southside Tribble Park from 12 to 3. So
this is awesome.
we're just going District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right?
I love it.
And I want to do more with, the other areas, but yeah.
We have time, Lisa. We have time. And I'm just grateful. One of the things I say as the at-large representative is that although we are separated by way of maps with regard to district that identifies where we live, but as far as I'm concerned, what happens in one district in Savannah happens in all of the districts.
Right.
And so all of our issues matter and all of our success matters as well. Listen, thank you for joining us tonight. I look forward to seeing you next week. And I want to thank our guests for joining us, and continue to put your questions in the chat, and we'll ask our guests to respond to you. Thank you so much, Savannah. We love you.
Right. Thank you, Keisha.